of my favorite discussions with farmers is when their corn falls over and they say, well, it's got to be the fault of the seed dealer. And immediately they call the seed dealer and they give them a hard time because they didn't sell them the right variety of seed because this variety stood and this other variety did not. But here's the whole thing. When you look at soil tests, almost all the time the lodging issues go back to soil tests. So we want to talk about that a little bit today.
Well, when you talk about soil tests, we're talking about fertility, obviously. And when you think about it, what do I need fertility-wise to keep my crop standing better and to reduce stress and improve yield and all those things? So yeah, you may call your seed dealer and say, you know what, what's going on? I got this variety or this hybrid planted and it's falling over. But the problem is not I got the wrong hybrid. It's how do I feed this thing? And what did I do wrong in my fertility program? Because obviously this particular variety or hybrid needs some more fertility. I didn't do it right because it's not still standing. Let's find out what it is. Now, the biggest culprit has been potassium, some kind of issue with potassium, but the soil test says parts per million are really good.
Right.
And it gives you a false sense of security.
That's right. It's very misleading because if you've got tremendously high levels of calcium and tremendously high levels of magnesium, you know what? If you've got what would be a normal level for some other farmer with potassium, that's not in ratio with your calcium and magnesium, maybe your hydrogen, your sodium, the other stuff that you have in your soil. So what we're looking for is in a base saturation test, we want to see at least 4% K. If you don't have at least 4% K, the odds are high that in the future you're going to have some lodging problems and probably reduced yield. In addition to potassium, though, you got to look at manganese, copper, some of these other nutrients that you've got. And then the other side of it is just excess nitrogen. So if you're really low on all these nutrients that are important for building the stalk strength, and then you overdo it on nitrogen, and hey, don't beat yourself up if you've done that. We've had that happen on our own farm too. We've really worked on correcting that in the last 10, 15 years. But anyway, if you have excess N and you don't have all the rest of the stuff to support your stock, you're going to have a lot more lodging issues.
When we've got lodging issues, it's mainly a nutrient issue. Now, that's not saying there aren't some other things that influence this. For example, let's say that your planting population is wrong. We got so many calls this spring again of, hey, I screwed something up on my planter and all of a sudden I put on 44,000 corn plants instead of 28,000 or something like that. And what do I do? Should I go out and rip it up or should I just try and fertilize more or what? And you know what? As soon as you do that, you step up and put way more plants out than you were planning on. You were going to feed 28,000 corn plants. Now you have 44.
Again, if you've got lodging problems on your farm, let's not go blaming the seed. Let's look hard at the soil fertility, but then also look at your planting population, look at compaction, look at drainage, some of those things. These are all real keys to figuring out what to do in the future because, quite frankly, we don't care what happened in the past. What we do care about is what are we going to do on our farm for the next 10 or 20 years? How can we make it better so this problem doesn't happen again? Well, hopefully one of the problems you don't have to fix is controlling our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?